So in this video, like promised, we will be picking up where we left off in The Rise of Nine by Pittacus Lore. I'm so sorry it's been so long. So as a way of saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish it today. No matter how long the video is, I'm going to finish the book. I think there's 30 chapters total. We're on chapter 27, so we will see. Hopefully you're excited, and thank you guys so much. Your comments mean the world to me. I'm going to get back to them as soon as possible. If not today, then tomorrow. But thank you guys all so much for your support. And in the next video that I post, I will make sure that my cats are involved, because I have a subscriber who's asked to see my cats, so I'll do that. Anyway, that's it for now. Without further ado, reading by Ree, The Rise of Nine by Pittacus Lore. Chapter 27. Wind, hot sand, and punishing heat, along with a pounding headache, welcome me to our next teleporting destination. I try to shield my eyes from the blinding sun as I lie on my back recovering. Welcome to New Mexico. Oh yeah, 8 groans, but he sounds satisfied. We made it. I smile but stay where I am to give the pain in my head time to lessen before I try to move. Ella, I call out. I'm right here, Marina, she calls over. Look where we are, New Mexico. Finally. Can you try communicating with 6 again? I already have. No luck yet. I slowly stand up. 8 is on his hands and knees at the bottom of the sand dune, dry heaving. The teleporting seems to have affected him more severely than it did the last couple of times. Ella has her hand on the back of his neck. The 2 chests sit nearby. I rotate 360 degrees, and all I see in every direction is sand. Sand and more sand. And the occasional cactus. Which way should we go? Ella and 8 climb up the dune and stand next to me. After a minute, Ella points north and says, Look, 6 said something earlier about dying in a desert with mountains. Squinting, I see where she's pointing. The faint outlines of mountains ripple in the afternoon haze. That's where we're going, then, 8 says. We can cover the distance in short hops once my teleporting comes back. For now, we walk. We pick up the chest and head north. Ella, I say, you need to keep trying 6. If you can't reach her, maybe you can try 4, or even try one of the others, 5 or 9. We've lost so much time getting here. Maybe Ella can learn something that will save us some time now. 9 examines the map he's brought up on the screen in the middle of the steering wheel. He looks around at the endless desert surrounding us. The car's GPS has picked up an underground tunnel nearby. Now we just need to find the entrance. When I press the green triangle on the tablet, it shows we're only a mile or 2 from the ship. I push the blue circle and shout, 9! They're here! Who's here? 9 asks, scanning the horizon. The 3 blue dots that kept moving. They're here in New Mexico now. 9 rips the tablet out of my hands and lets out a loud hoot. Holy shit, bro! No question we're in the right place. Wherever this tunnel leads, whoever's in there, it's all about to go down. He looks at me, his eyes shining. Yeah, this is it, the beginning of the end. It's dawning on me that this is going to be a fight of our lives. This right here, this is when we rise to the occasion, 9 says. You will fight harder than you ever have, for you're going to be a beast, and me, I'm going to find Setrákus Ra and rip his head off, wrap it up and send it back to Mogador with a giant red bow on it. And then Lorien is going to rise from the ashes. His voice is shaking with emotion, but all the pent-up anger and fight he has been carrying around with him. Bernie Kosar barks from the back seat, and 9 turns around to look at him with a smile. You too, BK. You, my friend, are going to kick some major ass. I imagine what it will feel like to meet up with all the guard members, something I haven't let myself do for so long. I look out over the horizon. My mind is clear and open to all possibilities. It feels good. And that's when I hear a girl's faint voice echo in my head. It's soft and broken like a bad radio signal at first, but it becomes clearer. 4, number 4, can you hear me? Yes, yes, I can hear you, I yell out loud, whipping my head back and forth. Who is that? Where are you? 9 looks at me confused. Dude? I hope you can hear me. I'm right here. Not you. I heard a girl. Did you hear her? A girl was just talking to me. Number 4. It's number 10. Can you hear me? This may be hopeless. I don't know if I'm talking to anyone. Maybe I'll never figure this out without Creighton. There it is again, I say excitedly. 9 is looking at me like I've completely lost my mind. 9! She just said something else. Did you hear her? She said she's number 10. I think she's in my head somehow. Number 10? The baby from the second ship? Well, don't just sit there staring at me. Talk back to her, dumbass. That's easy for him to say. I'm guessing it's a new legacy kicking in, for both of us. It takes training to know how to make a legacy work when and how you want it to. I know I don't have much time to waste figuring it out. I take a deep breath and block out the noise in my head and around me, and focus. I try to recreate the feeling I had right before I heard the voice a few minutes before. I feel calm, open, and somehow connected. I can hear you. I try saying in my head. Nothing. I wait a moment and try again. Number 10? Number 4! You can hear me! She heard me! I laugh out loud and look at 9, victorious. Tell her we're about to ride into town and save the day, 9 says. Tell her we'll be swinging by and pick her up on the way to Lorien, wherever she is. Where are you? I ask her. I'm with 7 and 8 in the desert, in New Mexico. We're trying to find and rescue number 6. What's she saying? 9 yells. I know it's making him crazy not being able to hear our conversation, but I can't talk to him now. I need to concentrate on hearing 10's voice, on responding to her. What do you mean? Where is 6? We're in New Mexico too. I'm with 9, and we're in the desert looking for an underground base. I look out at the mountains. We have to find that tunnel, fast, I say to 9. Did she say where they are? She just said she's here, in the desert, with 7 and 8, and they're trying to rescue 6. That must be who we saw show up on the map earlier. I know I shouldn't worry. If anyone can take care of herself, it's 6. But still, I'm worried. She's got to be inside Dulce. Let's go find her. 9's fingers speed over the screen. The map changes color and looks to be scanning the area, finally zooming in on the trunk of a 5-pronged cactus about a quarter mile away from where we are. Below it, I can see the outline of an underground tunnel. Ha! Nice try, you sneaky government bastards. Tell number 10 to get her butt over here. Can you tell me where you are, 10? We found a tunnel to get inside the base where we think 6 is being held. We're in a brown car pulled off on a side road. After a pause, she says, We can teleport to you. How do I find you? They don't know how to find us, I report to 9. Maybe we can send up a signal somehow. Damn it! We should have brought that rocket launcher. He hits the steering wheel with the palm of his hand and stares out the window, shaking his head. We don't need a rocket launcher, I realize, jumping out of the car. I aim my palms into the blue sky and light my lumen, swaying the beams back and forth. Look for the beams of light in the sky, I instruct 10. I don't hear anything for a minute. I hope we haven't lost our connection. 10, look for the beams of light. We see them, 10 finally says. They're on their way, I yell into the car, keeping my lumen in the air. I want to give them as much time as possible to see exactly where we are. We just need to sit tight. I'll try, 9 says, studying the screen on the steering wheel again, but already starting to twitch. Man, I can't believe we found them. I finally turn off my lumen and climb back into the car. Suddenly, we hear the unmistakable noise of a helicopter. Johnny? 9 says. They're not getting here by helicopter by any chance, are they? Shit, I say. Bernie Kosar jumps into my lap, putting his front paws on the door to look out the window. The 3 of us watch several helicopters climb into the sky from the hazy horizon. The cluster of choppers moves together and stops to hover directly above us. I use my mind to focus on the one out front and send it spiraling off back where it came from. Then I bring it down, hard enough that it won't go up again anytime soon. It must be the feds. They're getting on my nerves almost as much as the Mogadorians. They might have been looking for us and saw your lights, 9 yells. The gun turret in the hood of the car pops up. 9 aims and shoots warning shots to the right of the remaining choppers, then the left. As soon as he stops shooting, they lower down, hovering just above us. I'm going to get rid of another one with my telekinesis when 9 lets out a yelp. Check out the road, he says. I look to my left. and see an enormous dust cloud rising from a long line of black vehicles. Bernie Kosar barks and scratches at the door. I open it and he changes into an enormous hawk and ascends into the sky. I run around to the trunk of our car and open it with a pound of my fist. I unzip one of the duffels and pull out 4 automatic rifles, dropping 2 next to Nine's door. Gunshots are already firing from the faraway vehicles, and I scramble on top of the car and take aim while Nine unleashes a barrage at the incoming helicopters. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Bernie Kosar swoop into the side of the helicopter. He's got one of the pilots with his talons. He yanks and pulls at him, using his powerful beak to rip out the safety belt holding him in the seat. When the pilot is free, BK drops him onto the sand below. His helicopter falls and bursts into flames on impact. The caravan of black cars swerves around the wreckage, and I hold down the triggers of my 2 guns, taking out the front tires of the first 2 cars. It doesn't stop the convoy, but at least it slows them down. The remaining helicopters spread apart in the sky and come at us from different angles. Pockets of sand explode all around us. One helicopter flies directly overhead, and I roll out of the way of its line of fire. I struggle to clear my mind. It isn't easy, but I'm getting the hang of what it takes for me to go inside my head to communicate. I take a few deep breaths and quiet my mind. Number 10, where are you? We're under attack. We can hear it, she says. We're coming. Her thoughts are calm, with an edge of worry. It feels good just to hear it, though, to know others are on their way. I shift around and see 2 black helicopters bank left and head in the opposite direction, firing missile after missile at a new target. That has to be them. I can only redirect 3 of the rockets, but someone else deflects the rest. 10 and the rest are almost here, I yell down to 9 through the driver's window. Next thing I know, the gun turret on the front hood has exploded, sending hot metal flying over my head. I roll off the roof of the car just as it split in half by a new hail of bullets. 9 jumps out of the car and grabs the 2 rifles I set in the sand by his door. Looks like we've got a real fight on our hands. I've been waiting for this my whole life. The helicopters circle back and line up over the faraway vehicles, forming a united front. 9 lifts his palm and the lead black truck is suddenly ripped straight up in the air like a shuttle rocketing into outer space. 9 flips his hand and the car falls back down again. We can hear the men screaming from where we are. The car comes to a stop right before it hits the ground, then smashes down hard. We watch the men scramble out on shaky legs and look for somewhere to run. At the sound of the impact, Bernie Kosar, still in the form of a hawk, lands behind the twisted car on the road and transforms into a beast. The trailing vehicles swerve into the desert to avoid him, some spinning completely around. Bernie Kosar roars. 9 ducks into the back seat of the car and throws our chests into the sand. Opening his, he pulls out the string of green stones and the silver staff as he jogs backwards towards the chaos. He yells, "You wait for the others. BK and I'll be right back." I shout back, "Don't look like you're having too much fun, and make sure you don't blow up the entire military base." A helicopter swings in from my right, and just as I yank on its noose with my mind, something rips into my left leg. I fall headfirst into the sand, blinded by pain. It feels all too familiar, and I roll on the ground, screaming at the top of my lungs. I know what this means. A scar is searing itself into my leg. Another member of the guard is dead. Everything stops. The thought of another one of us dying sweeps through my body, and I'm paralyzed by grief so deep it feels like I'm sinking into the sand. There's one less soldier to reclaim Lorien, one less soldier to fight to save Earth, and every living thing on it. 2 missiles slam into our car, blowing it to bits. Gunfire rains down on me, and just in time my bracelet expands into a shield. I take some solace in the fact that my inheritance is in tune with the dangers that face me, although I don't know why it didn't protect me from the first onslaught of gunfire. The bullets are hitting close and constant. When I finally manage to examine the new scar wrapped around my ankle, I'm shocked to see 2 gaping bullet wounds instead. I don't know that I've ever been so happy to be wounded and bleeding. I'm so relieved that it's not another scar that I don't even care that my hands are covered in blood. As I apply pressure to stop the bleeding, my bracelet retracts. I manage to flip myself over and look up. Standing over me are 3 teenagers. The boy is tall and tan with curly black hair, and the 2 girls hold Loric chests. I recognize the boy immediately from my visions. He nods and smiles, saying, "Nice to see you again, number 4. I'm 8. Before I can respond, he disappears. One of the girls is short with auburn hair and tiny features. I know this must be number 10, the guard from the second ship. She drops the chest and kneels by my side. The other guard, a tall girl with shoulder-length brown hair, sets her chest down and, without saying a word, kneels beside me as well and lays both her hands on my wounds. An iciness rushes over me and my body convulses on the desert floor. Just when I think I'm about to pass out from the pain, it's gone. I look at my ankle and see my wounds are completely healed. It's amazing. The girl stands, offers me her hand, and pulls me to my feet. That's one hell of a legacy you've got there, I managed to say. Joan Smith? She's staring at me and looks kind of starstruck. After all this time, I can't believe you're standing here in front of me. I'm about to respond, but over her shoulder I catch sight of a missile screaming towards us. I shove the girls to the ground, falling on top of them, and a dune behind us erupts like a volcano, sending a sand cloud high over our heads. When it dissipates, 8 reappears next to us. Everything good here? Everyone ready to fight? He says. Yeah, we're good. Oh, yeah, we're good, the taller girl says, nodding towards my leg. 10 had said she was with 7 and 8, so this must be number 7. Before I can introduce myself properly, 8 disappears for the second time. He can teleport, says number 10, smiling at my look of wonder. I can hardly believe that so many of us are finally together. I smile back at her. In the distance, I can see 8 fighting. Alongside 9 and Bernie Kosar, they wreak havoc on each approaching vehicle, flipping and disabling heavy military equipment like cheap plastic toys. 9's glowing red staff slices open the underside of a low-flying helicopter. 8 teleports next to a black Humvee and flips it over with his hands. 2 helicopters swing low and collide into a fireball. A new sense of urgency comes over me to get 6 as fast as I can. So I'm guessing you're 7 and 10. What can you do? I say as I find our rifles in the sand and hand them each a gun. You can call me Marina, the girl with the brown hair says, and I can breathe underwater and see in the dark and heal the sick and wounded, and I have telekinesis. Call me Ella, I hear 10 say in my head. Aside from my telepathy, I can change ages. Awesome. I'm 4. That nut job with the long black hair is 9, and the beast is my chimera, Bernie Kosar. You have a chimera? Ella asks. I don't know what I'd do without him, I say. What's left of the brigade finally separates and a dozen vehicles bounce off the road and race towards the 3 of us. A small plume of smoke escapes from the top of one of the vehicles and I turn the rocket it just fired around with my mind, slamming it into a sand dune. The other trucks and SUVs keep speeding ahead. I start picking up pieces from 9's destroyed car and whipping them towards the oncoming barrage. Brigade. I launch tires, doors, even a mangled seat at them. Marina does the same, and we're able to stop 3 of the 4 vehicles from advancing. Still, there are half a dozen or more to deal with. Suddenly, 8, 9, and BK pop up in front of us. 8 lets go of 9's hand and reaches forward to shake mine. Number 4? You have no idea how happy we are that you guys are here, I say. 9 shakes 10's and 7's hands and says, Hello, ladies, I'm number 9. Hi, 10 says. You can call me Ella. I'm number 7, but I go by Marina, she offers. I wish there was time to talk to these people I've waited so long to find, to hear their stories, to know where they've been hiding, to learn their legacies and know what's in their chests. But there are more helicopters on the way. We can't stay here and defend this same piece of desert forever, I say. We have to get to 6. Let's take out these bad boys, 9 says, pointing to the oncoming cloud, and then we can find 6 and get on with it. We all turn to watch the approach. Several new helicopters now dot the sky. I look over at my fellow guard, and each one looks ready to fight. We've never had so many of us together. Never before have things looked so possible. After all this, we're never splitting up again. They'll just keep coming, I say. We should just get to 6. Okay, Johnny, the tunnel is that way, 9 says, pointing behind us. I'll take up the rear and deal with anything that needs handling. You know, snap a few necks, shake things up a bit. Those of us with chests pick them up. I take the lead, heading in the direction 9 pointed. I scan for traps and move everyone towards the 5-pronged cactus. 7 and 8 are on my heels, with 10 and BK close behind them. There's a steady stream of gunfire behind us as 9 does his thing. He stands like he's having a party with himself back there, hooting and hollering. Only he would consider this fun. We pick up the pace and don't stop running until we get to the cactus. 9 gleefully fires shot after shot while 8 and I try to deal with the prickly plant, the only thing that stands between us and where 6 is being held. The map showed that the tunnel is right where the cactus stands. Finally, we managed to blow it to pieces using our telekinesis. Beneath it is a thick brown door with a metal handle in the middle of it. As I stand there looking at the entrance to the tunnel, the other guard by my side, I remember what 9 said earlier. I've been waiting for this for my whole life. We've all been waiting for this, waiting for the moment when we'd find each other, when the 9 of us would rise up and defend the legacy of Lorien against the Mogadorians. As it turned out, all 9 of us didn't make it, but I know that the 6 of us who are left, as well as the addition of number 10, will do whatever it takes to survive what's to come. Chapter 28. An enormous Mog charges at me, gleaming sword swinging. I duck under the blade and... Oh, sorry. Wrong voice. An enormous Mog charges at me, gleaming sword swinging. I duck under the blade and connect my fist with his throat. He drops his weapon, gasping for air. No sooner has the metal clanged to the ground than I pick it up and behead him. A cloud of ash engulfs me as 3 more charge. The ash hides me. I crouch low, slicing Mog legs off at the knees as soon as they approach. When I stand, another massive Mog tries to get me from behind. I backflip over him, driving my sword through his midsection as I land. I step through his cloud of ash to find myself surrounded by a dozen more. I don't see Setrákus Ra. I turn invisible. After ripping through another round of Mogs, I look again for Setrákus Ra. I see him at the far end of the room and don't hesitate. I run straight at him. More Mogs appear. I lose count of how many. I leave them all in a pile of dust. When I'm within 30 feet of Setrákus Ra, he raises a fist and points it at me, almost as if he can see me. Blue electricity shoots from his hand and crackles along the ceiling of the room, and I feel myself turn visible. Once again, he's taken away my legacies. I knew this could happen, but I feel a pang of loss anyway. Still, I'm ready for whatever he has for me. Soldier Mogs come at me from all sides, but I just keep moving towards Setrákus Ra. When a Mog steps into my path, I rip my sword through his neck. Another grabs me from behind and I cut off his arm. Another comes screaming towards me and I shove my sword through his midsection. At this point, I'm so focused on where I will ram my blade through Setrákus Ra's neck that I barely notice killing off Mogs. The next thing I know, he's right next to me and grabs my neck. He raises me up with one hand until my feet are dangling off the ground, and once again our faces are only inches apart. "You fight well, little girl." He breathes into my face. I wince from the stench. "Give me my legacies back and you'll see how well." My voice is strangled. "If you are as strong as you think you are, I wouldn't be able to take them away." Oh, sorry, wrong one. "If you were as strong as you think you are, I wouldn't be able to take them away in the first place." "Don't give me that, you coward. If you're so sure you can take me, why don't you do it? Show me how big and tough you are. Give me back my legacies and fight like a man," I shout. His voice echoes as he bellows. "You use your powers and I use mine." He tosses me back into the middle of the room, but I barely notice the pain of the impact when I hit the floor. My sword clangs to the ground and skitters away. A soldier sends his sword spinning at me at high speed. My first instinct is to try to stop it with my mind, but my legacies are still gone. Even so, my strength and reflexes are with me, full force. I'm going to kill Setrákus Ra, with or without my powers. I reach out with both hands and slap them over the oncoming blade, trapping it inches from my chin. The next second, I'm tackled around the waist, and as I fall onto my back, I rotate the sword between my palms and sink it into the attacking Mog. I'm covered in a blanket of ash as I hit the ground. More Mogs come. I'm destroying them with their weapons, and the justice of that is awesome. I feel stronger with everyone I reduce to nothing. I'm also more pissed off. If I have to go through every Mog on Earth to get to Setrákus Ra, I'll do it. Setrákus Ra is just standing there, watching the show. He roars so loud I can feel the vibrations in my chest. My years of training were all leading up to this moment. The only way I could feel stronger is if the rest of the guard were here. We should be fighting him together. I shake off the thought. I will take him out for all of us. After I finish off the last soldier, Setrákus Ra moves into the middle of the room to where I stand. He reaches behind his back and produces a massive double-headed whip that he snaps against the ground. It lights up with orange flames. I don't even flinch. There's nothing he can do to scare me or stop me now. I race forward, yelling, "For Lorien!" He flicks the whip over my head, sending a thick blanket of flames over me. I dive under its edge and roll in the direction of his feet. As I dodge his stomping boot, I see several scars branded around his ankles. I register them, but don't have time to think if there's a connection between his scars and mine. My sword slashes his calf just above the highest scar in his left leg, and then I spring to my feet. The mark I made immediately hardens and fades into another scar. He's completely unaffected by the wound. He doesn't even limp a single step. He snaps the whip at me again, and I try to cut off one of its two tails, but when the flames touch my sword, the blade melts. I throw the remains of the sword at him. He raises his hand and halts the weapon in midair. It twirls and glows as he stretches open his fingers. The melted blade comes back above the handle, reforming into a gleaming sword again. He smiles and lets it fall to the ground. I dive for the sword, but when I reach down to grab it, his whip snaps across the top of my right hand. My skin boils and opens, and instead of blood, a hard black substance appears in the gash. I look at it and know I should feel unbelievable pain, but I'm numb. I stagger forward and finally get hold of the sword. Weapon in hand, I circle back around to face the Mog leader, but something is terribly wrong with my right hand now. It won't move. Setrákus Ra cracks his whip again, and I jump out of the way as it flies past me, leaving a trail of flames in its wake. When he raises his arm to pull the whip back over his shoulder again, I see an opening and take it. Gripping the sword in my left hand, I rush at him and plunge it deep into his rib cage. I yank it downwards, ripping his waxy skin apart until the sword is lodged at the bottom of his torso. I fall backwards, looking up at him and desperately hoping I've delivered the final blow, that I've ended the war. No such luck. Though Setrákus Ra grimaces for the first time, instead of turning into a pile of ash, he just reaches down and pulls the sword out of his body. He examines the blade, watching his thick black blood dripping off of it. Then he puts the blade in his mouth and bites down on it, breaking it in half and lets it drop to the ground. It's like he's playing with me. What's going on? I rise to my feet, calculating quickly what my next move should be. Step 1 is avoiding Setrákus Ra long enough to figure it out. I wish more than ever that my guard was standing with me. Ella, can you hear me? Nothing. I continue to back away from Setrákus Ra, trying to put more distance between us to give myself a fighting chance. That's when I notice my right hand is starting to tingle. I look down and see the skin around the whip's wound has turned black. As I watch, the discoloration spreads to my knuckles and fingernails. In a matter of seconds, my entire right hand is black up to my wrist. The tingling sensation vanishes. My hand feels incredibly heavy, like it's turned to lead. I look up at Setrákus Ra. The purple scar on his neck begins to pulse with a bright light. "Are you ready to die?" he asks me. "Ella, if you're coming, now's the time. In fact, it's now or never." I want so much to hear her voice in my head, telling me that she and the others are just outside the door. We should be together, fighting Setrákus Ra with our legacies until there's nothing left of him but a worthless, powerless pile of ash. Instead, I'm here alone, powerless, my hand injured and useless. Setrákus Ra is standing here in front of me, fire, whip in hand, toying with me. What is going on? I take one more look around at the desert, then reach for the wheel of the brown door and give it a spin. After one rotation, I decide to speed things up and just yank it off its hinges. A steel ladder goes down into the black hole. "I can see in the dark," Marina volunteers. "I'll go first." I stand aside to let her get by. Marina climbs down the ladder into the darkness and drops out of sight. 8 tosses her chest down after her. "It's about 20 feet down. Looks like there's a long tunnel," Marina calls up. "All clear so far. I don't see anyone." 9 looks at Ella and me and says, "Ladies first." Ella starts down the ladder, and when she disappears, 9 smirks at me and says, "Well, okay, but I was referring to you 4. I shake my head at him. He's nothing if not consistent. He gestures for me to go down next. "You know I love you, man. Get in there." Using telekinesis, I let Bernie Kosar down first, back in his beagle form, then tuck my chest under one arm and awkwardly climb down using just the other hand. It's musty and cold inside the tunnel. Ahead of me, I can hear Ella and Marina walking and BK's toenails clinking on the cement. I turn the lumen on in my free hand and sweep the concrete tunnel for a few seconds, getting my bearings. I use my lumen to illuminate the distance between our location and a sharp turn far up ahead. Then I turn it off. "Marina, you can keep us moving, right? 8 and 9 have now caught up to us." "Yes," she says, and we all start to follow her down the dark passageway. We haven't gone very far when I almost slam into Ella, who has stopped dead in her tracks. "Oh no. I finally got through to 6. She needs us. She says it's now or never." "Let's pick up the pace, people," 9 calls out from the rear. We run as fast as we can through the dark. I flash my lumen every few seconds to keep us from running over each other. We make a sharp turn and I wave my hand again to light up the tunnel and reveal what's ahead. The next 100 yards slope downward, and my lumen lights up a concrete door at the end. I slide my chest down ahead of me until it slams against the door. Still sprinting, I turn on both of my palms to give us all a better view. Nine quickly rips open his chest and pulls out the yellow ball covered in small bumps. Like a magician, he holds it in his fingers and then whips it at the door. It bounces just a few inches off the metal before expanding while turning black. Long, razor-sharp spikes explode out of it, and the door is blown inward on impact. The spikes instantly retreat until it's just a yellow ball again, lying innocently on the floor. Nine leans down, grabs it, and tosses it back into his chest, which he closes with a loud snap. I was hoping that would happen, Nine says admiringly. We all bolt through the doorway. Red lights are flashing and sirens are blaring, attacking our senses. At the end of this shorter passageway, we come to another large concrete door. This one rises as we approach it, revealing dozens of enormous Mogadorian soldiers with cannons and swords up and ready to use. Mogs? What are they doing here? Asks 8 in disbelief. Yeah, bad news. The government and the Mogadorians have teamed up, I say. Easy pickings, 8 says. 9 nudges me and makes an exaggerated gesture of approval at our new-found guard member. I feel a surge of adrenaline pump through my body that I've only felt in my visions. All of a sudden I know what to do. I look over at the others. Follow my lead, I yell. They nod back at me. I drop my chest, light the lumen in both palms, and rush straight ahead. The last thing I see out of the corner of my eye is Ella scooping up my chest. Just like in my vision, I aim the lumen at my feet as I run, and they catch on fire. The flames climb up my legs and engulf my body just as I reach the first soldier. When I jump, I'm a fireball that burns right through him. He turns to ash, and I keep running. The Mogs I pass swing around 180 degrees to shoot at me, but my flames offer the perfect protection. I lower my head and run with my arms stretched out, effectively keeping any other soldiers away. Marina, 8, and Ella are on the heels of the soldiers, picking them off from behind as I race ahead. 9 has run up onto the ceiling and is battling the Mogs from above. I toss fireballs at the closest ones to me, and in a matter of seconds they're all torched, leaving a thick cloud of ash and smoke hanging above. I slow my pace when I see the last one go down. When we reach the back of the room, I launch a large ball of fire at the door, blowing it to pieces. I take a second to admire how well that worked, BK even getting his share of Mogs, though this is clearly neither the time nor the place for self-congratulation. Maybe 9's rubbed off on me. We all turn to see what's next. Setrákus Ra has done something to me. I can't move at all and stand rooted in place. At first, I wonder if it's just all the punishing battle or the bizarre wound on my hand, or both. Then I realize there's something seriously wrong. Something stopped me from being able to move. I force my chin up to look at Setrákus Ra looming before me. Setrákus Ra has produced a golden cane with a black eye on the handle. He holds it out and the eye blinks, rolls left, then right before it finds me. Then the eye slowly closes and snaps back open to emit a crazy, bright, blinding red light. As the beam crawls over my helpless body, it leaves behind a weird, buzzing sensation on my skin. I really need to move. I need to get away from that creepy light, away from whatever it's doing to me, but I'm immobilized. My hand weighs a ton. I'm vulnerable, and I need to get control of the situation, of myself, but I can't. The light from the eye is now purple, and it rolls over my face. I lick my lips and taste something burned. Setrákus Ra moves towards me until he's a few feet away. I close my eyes and tighten my jaw, thinking of John and Katerina and Sam and Marina and Ella. I see 8 and Henry and Creighton, and even Bernie Kosar. I will not give Setrákus Ra the honor, the pleasure of looking at him while he kills me. Something hot and soft touches my forehead, like a blast of air. I steel myself for whatever is about to happen, brace myself for the certain agony it will bring. When nothing happens, I open my eyes to see Setrákus Ra just standing there. Well, not exactly. Not exactly. There are bands of red and purple light shining out of the head of his cane and crawling up and down his massive body. Setrákus Ra starts to shake, and a white light outlines his shoulders and arms. He falls to his knees, convulsing, his huge head jerking up and down. Then his dull, waxy skin pulls away from the muscle and bone. When the skin snaps back down into his shrinking body, it has a new olive tone. Long blonde hair grows out of his scalp until he has a full head of hair. When he looks up at me, I am more desperate than ever to attack, but I still can't move. He's me. Gray eyes and high cheekbones and dyed blonde hair. For me to be you, you must stay alive, he says in my voice, but only for now. He lifts a palm into the air, and as if there was one magnet in the ceiling and another in my now black hand, I shoot off the ground, slam against the ceiling, and dangle there, 50 feet off the floor. I feel a painful buzzing in my brain. I try again to call for Ella in my head, but I can't even hear myself think. When I touch my free hand to the one stuck to the ceiling, it, too, turns black. The heavy stiffness that weighed down my hand is now spreading. The only thing I can move at this point are my eyes. My entire body is now black. Black rock. Chapter 29. Once again I take the lead. Marina trails me, and a growling Bernie Kosar runs alongside her. Ella still has my chest, with 8 and 9 following close behind. My fire has made me invincible, and my flames instantly consume every Mogadorian soldier that comes charging around a corner or through a door. The fire has not only taken over my body, but also my mind. I have never felt so confident, so determined, so ready to defeat our enemies before. "She still hasn't responded to me," Ella yells as we enter another hallway filled with sirens and flashing lights. "I don't know if she can hear anything I'm saying." "Well, she isn't dead yet, because we would know we would have new scars," 9 says. My fire is getting higher and wilder, licking the walls and ceiling of the corridor as I pass through. It's hard to describe my energy, how I'm barely able to contain it, like I might explode with it. I'm ready to fight Setrákus Ra, and I know that the others feel the same way. 9 and 8 are like wrecking balls swinging down the hall, pounding soldiers into oblivion, bouncing from one Mog to another, and Marina is fighting fearlessly, using all means available to toss soldiers into the air. Ella, with fewer powers revealed, looks on a bit enviously as we swat away the soldiers. I wish I had time to stop and tell her how vital she is, how important her ability to communicate telepathically was to our all coming together. How she, as the youngest Lorik, represents our long life and the power of our guard. We're ready to take back Lorien, and that's only possible because of everything each one of us brings to the fight. The hallway splits off, and we need to quickly decide which way to go. Separating is never going to be an option again. "Okay, Fireboy, which way?" 9 asks. Marina steps up and says, "This way." Her ability to see in the dark is better than the limited view my lumen offers, so I extinguish my fire and we all follow her to the left. Marina doesn't even hesitate at the entryway of a long, wide room filled with tall brown columns. Neither do the rest of us. We have our weapons ready when we first hear the noise of people marching in on the far end of the room. I nudge Marina's arm. "Hey, can you see who that is?" "Yeah, I'm guessing they're government soldiers. They're definitely not Mogs. There are a lot of them. I don't know. 20? 30? There could be more than that." She turns and moves towards them. We all do the same. We can toss them aside easily, twisting their guns with our telekinesis. We blow through the big room and turn left, where we find a dozen government soldiers, dressed in black, protecting a heavy metal door. As soon as they see us, they step into formation to fully block the passageway and start firing. As if prearranged, Marina and 8 both raise their hands, stopping the bullets as they are fired, inches away from their barrels. Immediately, 9 joins the action and uses his mind to rip the guns out of the soldiers' hands and lifts the soldiers up, dangling from the domed ceilings. We each grab a gun. 9 wedges the tip of his staff into the door frame they were guarding and rips it off its hinges. Behind the doorway is another hallway, this one lined with doors on both sides. 9 runs ahead to each of the doors and briefly presses his ear to each one. He reports one unmanned control room after another. Further down the hall we find what look like empty prison cells. I wonder if we're getting closer to finding 6. She could be behind any one of these doors. I spot a trail of blood in front of one of them. From 10 feet away I rip the door out of its frame. The cell is pitch black inside. Before I have a chance to use my lumen, Marina pushes me away. "There's a person in here!" she cries. We hear a whimper from the back corner, and I flash my lights into the darkness. There, scared and dirty, is someone I was afraid I would never see again. Sarah. I fall to my knees, my lights glowing dimly. I open my mouth to speak, but only a squeak comes out. I try again. "Sarah?" I can't believe she's sitting in front of me. I can't believe we found her. After a quick glance up at me, Sarah hugs her knees to her chest and looks afraid of me. She drops her head into her knees and sobs. "Please don't do this to me. Please don't trick me anymore. Not like this. I can't take it. I can't take any more." She's shaking her head over and over. I don't think she's even registered I'm not alone. I can feel everyone standing behind me, cloaked in darkness. "Sarah," I whisper, "it's me, John. We're here to take you home." 9 hangs back, but I can hear him say to someone, "So this is the famous Sarah? Girl looks good, even dirty." Sarah pulls her legs to her chest even more tightly and peeks over her knees. She looks so vulnerable and scared, I just want to scoop her up, but I move slowly, ready for anything. This could be a trap. I haven't come this far only to act without thinking. When I touch her shoulder, she screams in panic. I can feel everyone behind me flinch with the sudden noise, the sheer terror in her voice. She presses her back against the wall, her hair sticking to the rough concrete. Then she lifts her face to the ceiling and cries, "Don't trick me anymore! I've told you everything! Please don't trick me anymore!" Marina steps forward so she is standing next to me. She grabs my arm and gives me a shake, then pulls me to my feet. "John, we can't stay here. We have to get moving. We need to take Sarah with us." Sarah finally sees the others. I watch her take in Marina standing there, looking down at her. Her eyes widen and then she looks around at the others who have stepped closer. Tears streak the thick layer of dirt on her cheeks. "What's happening? Are you really here? Are all of you really here?" I kneel down next to her again. "It's me. It's us. I promise. Look, even Bernie Kosar wants to say hi." He trots over and licks her hand, his tail wagging. I lay my hands on hers, and when I see the bruises running up and down her wrists, my eyes fill with tears. I press her fingers to my lips. "Sarah, listen to me. I know I left you once. I promise you, I will never do that again. Do you hear me? I will never leave you." She's still looking at me as if I might disappear or turn into a fire-breathing monster. 1,000 other things I've been thinking about for so long race through my mind, and I struggle to say more. I flash back to our last conversation at the playground, moments before the police took me away. "Hey, Sarah, do you remember when I said that I think about you every day? Do you remember that?" She looks at me and nods. "Well, I did, and I do, every day." She allows herself a tentative smile. "Now do you believe it's really me?" She nods again. "Sarah Hart, I love you. I love only you. You hear me?" She looks so relieved. It makes me want to pick her up and tell her it's over and I'll keep her safe. Always. She kisses me, her hands on each side of my face. "4, come on. We have to go," 8 shouts. He and the others have moved to the door, anxiously looking down both directions of the hallway. There's an explosion in the hall and 8 runs out to see what it is, followed by Ella and Marina. "What the hell is taking so long, man?" 9 shouts to me, gesturing madly towards the girl. "Stand the girl up and let's get going. Sarah Hart, it's awfully nice to meet you, but we really need to move, now." 9 rushes over and helps me get Sarah to her feet. Once she's fully upright, he gives her a quick hug. She looks surprised by the warm welcome, and I have to wonder about the wink he gives me overhead. "Sarah freaking Hart, do you have any idea how much this jerk talks about you?" I smile at Sarah, then 9. "No." Sarah laughs quietly, leaning into me and winding her fingers through mine. Okay, come on, you two," 9 says, turning to head back to the door. I stare into Sarah's blue eyes. "Before we go, I have to ask you something, and you need to understand that I have to ask it. You're not working for them, are you? The government and the Mogs?" Sarah shakes her head. "Why does everyone keep asking me that? I would never betray any of you." "Wait, who's everyone? Who else asked you that?" "Six," Sarah says. Her blue eyes widen. "You didn't find her?" "You've seen Six?" Marina speaks up excited. "When? Where?" "She's fighting Setrákus Ra," Sarah says, starting to panic again. "They took her away a while ago." "Setrákus Ra is here?" I ask. I knew he might be, but to have my suspicions confirmed gives me new strength. "What? No way. That's my fight," 9 yells. "Don't worry, man. If we move fast, maybe you can get a piece of him," I say. Then I look down the hall to find 8, Marina, and Ella running back towards us. "That way," Marina shouts. I grab Sarah's hand and pull her behind me. Everyone races down the hall where we find Bernie Kosar standing in front of a metal doorway that's the size of a loading dock entrance, barking uncontrollably. "There must be something going on in there," 8 says. "I'll teleport through and scout it out." "Wait a sec, 8. I hold up my hand to stop him. "No scout. We should just do this, all of us." 8 looks at me for a second, then nods. "You're right. This is for all of us." When we're all gathered at the door, I look down the line of determined faces. Even Sarah. She's gone from weepy rescue girl to warrior in a heartbeat. Pretty impressive. Of course, she hasn't got a clue what we are pretty sure is about to happen. It's likely this is going to be an epic battle, if not the battle. I have a feeling in my gut that everything has led up to this moment. This could be what we've been working towards. "Whatever's inside, whatever happens," I say, lighting the lumen in my palms, "we will kill Setrákus Ra, no matter what. I'm saying this for me, not them." We're all on this, dude," 9 says. I hold a glowing palm over the door, and just as I'm about to blow it inwards, a woman with red hair and an arm in a sling comes hobbling through a door at the far end of the hall. She and I gasp at exactly the same time. Then she turns and darts back through the door. "Wait, Agent Walker!" I shout after her. "Walker? Are you kidding me?" Nine says incredulously. "The chick soldier who's tried to capture us?" The others just look on, confused for a beat, before 8 speaks up. "I'll get her for you," he says, and then disappears. When he materializes a moment later, he's got her, arms twisted behind her back. The first thing I do is rip off the gold badge on the front of her shirt. Nine plucks the badge out of my hand and makes a great show of examining it carefully. "Well, well, well. Who do we have here? Special Agent Walker," Nine laughs. "Ha! Lady, you look awful." He hands the badge back to me as if it suddenly has cooties. "Do you know how pathetic you are?" I yell. "Cutting deals with the Mogs, doing their dirty work for what? They're going to destroy you." "I'm doing my job," she says stiffly. It has a tight grip on her. "We are doing what's best for this country." She stares back at me defiantly, but I know we will make it clear how much she has to fear from us soon enough. Sarah points at her. I've seen you before, John. She was there when 6 was taken away." 9 grabs Agent Walker by her shirt's lapels like some gangster from a movie. 8 never loosens his grip on her arms. 9 shoves his face right into hers. "I want this one. I get to kill her." Walker is now frantically struggling to back away from 9 and free herself of 8. "Wait, I know where your ship is," she pleads. "I know you want it, and you'll never find it without me." "Our ship is here?" Marina asks, clearly uncertain if she can trust what Agent Walker says. The agent narrows her eyes. "I'll show you if you let me go." "What do you think, 4? 9 asks. John, what happens when you find your ship?" asks Sarah, grabbing my arm. "We don't have time for this," Marina says. "I know 6 is inside this room. The fact that this woman will say anything to keep us from going in tells me I'm right. Forget about her. Who cares about our ship, where our ship is, until we have 6? 9 says, "I'll handle her." Walker floats up into the air and hangs by her belt hook on the light fixture high above us, red-faced with fury. 9 looks at us, winks, and flicks the fingers of one hand behind his back, blowing the door open. Marina's right. 6 and Setrákus Ra come first. Shall we? He smiles at Sarah. "You're pretty badass from what I've heard from Johnny here," he says, handing her Walker's Mog cannon. "Think you can handle her?" Sarah takes the cannon. "If she moves from that light, I'll blast her, gladly." I look at the rest of the guard. It's time. We rush inside. We don't have to figure out who's doing what. We just know. It's quiet and dark, and an awful stench permeates the air. All I can think of is the arena that kept appearing in my visions. Is this it? I look around, trying to see if I can tell. The center of the large room is dimly illuminated. 9 runs into the circle of light and yells, "Time to come and play, Setrákus Ra, you piece of shit!" "Where's 6? Marina says. She joins 9 in the center of the room, along with 8. They quickly drop their chests and start to look around. "You guys, there's something up on the ceiling," Ella says, her voice echoing around the room. I look up to see a small formation of rocks hanging from the ceiling. I shine my lumen on the subject, and bathed in its glow, it almost looks like a statue. "This isn't right. I don't know why, but there's something wrong here," I say in a low voice. While we watch the shadows for any sign of movement, 9 uses his anti-gravity legacy to run up onto the ceiling and look at the rock formation. When he starts to get close, I hear a familiar voice yell, "Stop!" I whip around to see 6 standing alone in the doorway. A loop of thick rope hangs from her hip, and in her hand is a jagged blue sword. She looks unharmed. Now that is the 6 I remember, confident and strong. Did she do it? Is it possible that 6 has already killed Setrákus Ra? "6! Oh my God, it's you!" Marina cries. "You're okay!" "It's over," 6 says. "Setrákus Ra is dead. That formation on the ceiling is Mogadorian poison. Stay away from it." The relief in the air is palpable. 8 teleports to 6's side and wraps his arms around her in a huge hug. 6 was always the strongest of us, stronger than even me or 9. She just saved Lorien, Earth, and possibly the universe. I want to pick her up, put her on my shoulder, and parade her back to Lorien. I start towards her, but Ella grabs my wrist and pulls me back. I hear in my head, "John, something's wrong." The next few moments happen in what feels like slow motion. 6 pulls the jagged blue sword back and thrusts it forward. Horrified, I watch 8 become rigid. Then the tip of the sword breaks through the middle of his shoulders. He slumps forward. 6 pushes 8's body off her sword, and he falls to the floor motionless. No! Marina screams from behind me and rushes towards 8. I'm paralyzed with shock until my instinct to fight kicks in. I look down and a massive fireball has formed in the palm of my right hand. Whatever confusion I was just feeling has cleared, and I know what I need to do. This can't be 6, and whoever this really is, I need to kill them. 6, I say, rolling the fireball on the tips of my fingers. What did they do to you? She laughs and raises her other hand into a fist. Blue lightning shoots out between her knuckles and spreads along the ceiling of the room. My fireball disappears. What's going on? 4. I look up to see 9 flying through the air from above me. His anti-gravity legacy must have failed him too. I managed to catch enough of him to stop him from slamming down on the ground and help him get to his feet. Marina stands protectively over 8. Guns aimed and ready to fire. 8 is still on the ground and I can't tell how badly he's injured. At least I know he's alive, since I don't have a new scar. Marina lets loose a burst of bullets, but they stop inches from 6's face and drop uselessly to the concrete. I try to light myself with my lumen again, but nothing happens. With her sword held high, 6's body starts to convulse and blur with a quick flash of white. She grows taller, and her long blonde hair shrinks into a small patch on top of her large skull. Her face elongates and morphs. And somehow I know she's changing into Setrákus Ra even before the glowing purple scar appears on his neck. 2 battalions of Mog soldiers silently emerge from doors on the side of the room and flank him. Without a word, 9, Marina, Ella, and I move closer to one another, standing over 8 to make it clear we will face him together. All of you in one place, how convenient for me. I hope you're ready to die, he snarls. I think you have that wrong, I reply. That's what number 6 thought too, but she was wrong. Very wrong. He smiles, his revolting and stained teeth glinting in the dim light. 9 looks over at me and rubs his hands together, all eager anticipation. Johnny boy, we have discussed how important oral hygiene is to me. Johnny boy, have we discussed how important oral hygiene is to me? He looks back at Setrákus Ra. Dude, brush your teeth before you even think about threatening me. He extends his glowing red staff, turns to Setrákus Ra, and charges. Thankfully, we still have the power of our inheritance. Chapter 30. Out of the corner of my eye, I see 9 charging Setrákus Ra. I turn back to 8 to see if I can heal him. I keep my hands on 8's chest wound, waiting for my legacy to start working again. Nothing. I beg 8 to hold on, to fight through the pain, but his brown eyes roll back, and his breath becomes more and more shallow. Panicked, I flash back on the drawing from the Loric cave, the one where 8 is killed by Setrákus Ra's sword. Is the prediction coming true? I desperately keep pressing my hands all over his chest. Marina, John shouts. We have to get you and 8 out of this room, now. I have a feeling if we can get away from Setrákus Ra, our legacies will start working again. If I'm right, you can still save 8. He's too badly wounded for a healing stone. He's almost gone, I managed to choke out. It might be too late no matter what we do. I can't bring myself to tell him about the cave drawing. I wonder if 8 is able to think about any of this, to remember the drawing, to know what this moment might be. I hope not. Then we should hurry, he says, handing me a Mog cannon and picking up 8. Shoot anything and everything that's not one of our friends. We try to cover the 100 or so yards to the door as quickly as we can, while keeping an eye on the others who are locked in battle. With every Mog I turn to ash on the way, I feel stronger and stronger. I try not to think about where 6, the real 6, is, or what's happened to her. I knew that wasn't 6. I wish I had killed that thing. Even before it revealed itself, I scan the room. 9 is fighting Setrákus Ra, clearly treading water, his staff clashing with Ra's sword. As strong as 9 is, it almost looks like Setrákus Ra is toying with him, just waiting for the right moment to strike and kill. Every ounce of confidence and strength I felt a moment ago drains out of me. There are simply too many of them and too few of us. And we are without our legacies, which means we're just kids. Kids fighting an organized alien army. I hate to leave the others, but I know John is right. I know I need to get out of here if I'm going to have any hope of healing 8, and saving 8 is the only choice. We're almost at the door when 24 Mogs come right at us. Some of them have cannons, some of them have swords, and they all appear terrifyingly unstoppable. I try to shoot them, but the cannon blasts I send their way don't even make a dent in the advancing mob. There are just too many of them. John manages to set 8 down just outside the door. Then he joins me, charging them and wielding his sword. I fight alongside him. I will not let John go down. I will not let John down, no matter how bad the odds appear. We protect one another, and we draw strength from one another when we feel weak. It's why we've survived this long, and why we will win. We are stronger when we unite. John mows the Mogs down, one at a time, methodically and fast. I shoot steadily as I maneuver to block the doorway and protect 8. I duck outside the door, to check on 8's condition. I feel his pulse, which is faint, and I can tell my legacy has not returned. I lay my hands on him and whisper fiercely, "You can't die, 8. Do you hear me? I'm going to heal you. My legacy will return, and I will heal you." I realize the Mogs that had charged us are all gone, destroyed, and the abrupt silence startles me. "We have to hurry. More will come," John says urgently. We hear a deafening scream. Through the door we can see Bernie Kosar has transformed into a beast and is surrounded by Mogs who are trying to slash at him. But he jumps in and out of their reach. The Mogs can't get him, but he isn't able to do much damage to them either. We step back into the room in time to see Setrákus Ra pull out a whip. Its tips begin to flame and he strikes 9 in the arm. The wound immediately begins to turn black. John turns to say something to me when I hear a shot. Before I can even tell what happened, John's body convulses and he falls to the ground. I'm stuck to the ceiling, entombed in black stone. I watch as the rest of the guard fight for their lives and I can't even feel my own body. Never mind let them know I'm up here. I'm helpless and it's killing me. I've trained every moment of my life learning how not to be helpless. Setrákus Ra is no great fighter. He's only taking us down because he is able to render us powerless. I want to be standing down there with his head in my hands for all of the Mogs to see. I would make sure they witnessed the destruction of their leader, and then I'd leave them in the same pile of ash. Am I watching the dream of Lorien die? We thought we were strong, and so smart, and so prepared. We thought we were going to end the war and fly back home to Lorien. We were fools, arrogant fools. We knew of Setrákus Ra, the great and terrible Mogadorian leader, but we didn't know anything about how he fought, the powers he would bring to battle. In retrospect, it seems obvious that he would have the power to take our legacies. I wish I could communicate with my fellow guard. I'd be able to direct them well from this vantage point. For one thing, I can see that while the Mogs are stupendously strong physically, they bring little, if anything, in the way of mental technique. These guys are almost as dumb as the rock I've become. They reveal their movements before they act. Their plan of attack is easy to read because they don't have one. This is a game of numbers and brute force, and that is an enemy that can be beat if you know what you're dealing with. But when you're in the thick of it, it's impossible to see. I wish I could tell the guard to focus all their energies and strength on Setrákus Ra. Otherwise, I fear the battle will be short. The Mogs almost sure to win. I watch Bernie Kosar get slashed. He's transformed himself into an enormous beast, the same kind he became back in paradise. His body is thick and muscular, his teeth and claws are sharp and jagged, and 2 curled horns have sprouted from his head. I see Setrákus Ra hit 9 with his whip, and 9's arm turn black, which I can only assume means he'll be in the same position as me soon. John has been shot, and he goes down writhing in pain. Marina picks up a cannon and starts firing on the advancing Mogs. Ella's sneaking out of the room. Does she have a plan? I'm distracted from watching Ella by the sound of BK roaring in pain. I see he's fallen to his knees. Though he's still fighting, still killing Mogs, he's bleeding heavily from his wounds. It's agonizing watching him slowly destroyed, in so much pain. Okay. I'm bleeding out. I can feel my blood and my strength running out of me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Wave after wave of Mogs just keep coming. I have no idea how many we've killed so far today, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. Without our legacies, it's like trying to stop a tsunami with a pile of Swiss cheese. Marina is behind me, firing on the Mogs. I look over at Bernie Kosar and see the Mogs have ropes around his horns and are dragging him out of the corner. "Coward! You're nothing but a coward! You have to paralyze us just to beat us!" I hear 9 scream. I see him in the center of the room, one of his arms black and hanging heavy and useless, as Setrákus Ra rears his whip back. Setrákus Ra smiles. "You can call me whatever names you want. It's not going to change the fact that you're about to die." He snaps the whip forward. 9 tries to block the flaming tips with his staff, but with only one arm, it's impossible. One of the tips hits 9's hand, sending the staff flying, and the other tail of the whip hits 9's face. He screams out in pain as his hand and face both start turning black. Setrákus Ra advances on him. I have to do what I can before I'm totally useless, or dead, so I start firing my cannon at Setrákus Ra from my position on the ground. At best, I'm a distraction, but I will do whatever I can. He stops each one of the projectiles I fire in midair and tosses them aside, like they're nothing. I hear a new source of cannon fire. I turn towards the door and see Sarah moving into the room, firing on Moggs. Ella behind her. Sarah. She hasn't been trained. There's no way she can survive a battle with the Moggs and Setrákus Ra. Sarah! I scream. You've got to get out of here! This is not your fight! Sarah ignores me and keeps moving deeper into the room. 9 is trying to move away from Setrákus Ra, but his arms, both of which are now completely black, weigh him down. His face is quickly turning as black as his arms. Setrákus Ra strikes 9 again, this time getting him with both tips of the whip right in the middle of his chest. 9 cries out and Setrákus Ra shouts, I had heard you might be my greatest challenge, but look at you, you are nothing! As Setrákus Ra brings his whip back once more to deliver a fatal blow to 9, Ella darts out from behind Sarah and throws something at him, something that looks like a small red blur. It hits Setrákus Ra in the arm and he looks down, shocked, before letting out a deafening roar. I feel something change inside of me. It's immediate and enormously powerful, like someone plugged me into an energy source. I focus on my hands and try, just once more, to light my lumen. To my amazement, it works. Our legacies have returned. From behind me, I hear Marina cry out, and she races over to 8, who's still just outside the doorway. I see her run her hands over his chest, working on his wounds. She looks at me through the doorway. What just happened? I shake my head. I have no idea, but now we've got ourselves a real fight. My palms glowing, I turn towards the center of the room where Setrákus Ra is clawing at his arm, trying to pull out the small red object Ella threw at him. He finally succeeds and turns to snap the whip at Ella and Sarah, who is still firing the cannon. They don't move out of the way fast enough and the whip makes contact. They both go down. As soon as the dart hits Setrákus Ra, I feel the change. My legacies are back. My strength is starting to return. I have a chance to get out of here and help the others. I start struggling within the black casing and can now feel myself move slightly within it, but not enough to break out. As I continue to struggle, I look below me. John is with Sarah and Ella, both down. He's left a trail of blood behind him as well as piles of ash. Marina has run back outside to 8. Bernie Kosar is still in the corner, but now he is tearing apart the Moggs that were dragging him a second ago. In the middle of the room, 9 is still facing off with Setrákus Ra, and he's been able to break his hands and face free from the black rock that was taking over his body. Seeing that gives me hope that I can break out of my own stone prison and continue my struggle until I feel the casing start to give way. I'll be out soon. I'm frantic to free myself. The only thing I want now, right now, is to show Setrákus Ra what it feels like to have a real fight on his hands. Just when I was giving up hope that I would ever be able to help 8, my legacy returns. I put my hands on the wound in the center of his chest and feel it start to work. With every second that passes, his heart beats stronger and stronger. I've never felt anything so good in my life. That steady bump, bump, bump. If I weren't in the middle of a fight for our lives, for our future, I think I would start crying right now. But I stay strong and keep my emotions in check. I look down and see 8's eyes flutter open, then look up at me. You need to know. 6 tried to, he starts to say. I cut him off. That wasn't 6. It was Setrákus Ra. I don't know how, but it was him. But the confusion in 8's eyes makes my heart break. 8, I can't explain everything right now. How do you feel? Can you stand? We have to get in there, join the others and fight. Are you ready? I need to heal John and I need you to run interference. Got it? He nods, and I start to get up. But there's just one thing I need to do before it's too late. I look into his eyes, his beautiful brown eyes, take a deep breath and kiss him. He looks shocked as I pull back. I shrug at him and smile. Hey, there's no time like the present, right? Before he can say or do anything, I turn to find John. I need to heal him, fast. He took 3 cannon blasts protecting me. If I don't get to him now, he'll die. There's a trail of blood where John dragged himself across the floor, and 8 and I follow it. A heavy cloud of smoke is hanging in the air from all the cannon blasts. When we get to John, he's on his knees, shooting balls of fire from his hands at a massive gang of Moggs, trying to get to Ella and Sarah. As we move towards him, the Moggs fire at us. But now that I'm able to use my telekinesis, I can deflect their shots, and 8 begins fighting back too. I run to John's side and begin to heal his wounds. He's breathing heavily and is very pale. He's lost so much blood. John, you need to stop for a minute so I can heal you. I have to shout to be heard over the chaos and commotion. I grab his chin and force him to look at me. He shakes his head, trying to release my grip. If I stop, the Mogs will kill Sarah and Ella. If you don't stop, you'll die. Aid is healed now. He can do defense while I work on you. Please, John, we need you. I feel him stop struggling. I look more closely at the wounds on his legs. They're similar. Both legs are bleeding steadily from gaping holes. I work on the right one first, and can immediately tell Forrest's thigh bone is also broken. He can't help but scream while he kneads itself, but the sound is absorbed by everything else going on. His hands ball into fists as I continue. The second leg isn't as bad as I'm able to heal it more quickly. John is already breathing easier. I reach for his arm and yell into his ear, "You're looking a whole lot better." I place my hand on the wound on John's upper arm and can feel the muscles, the bicep and tricep, have been shredded. It's going to take a minute or two for them to heal. Aid is still firing away at the constant stream of Mogs, but they are coming almost faster than he can keep up with. I feel John's muscles finally knit together and he's healed. He looks at me and I nod. He leaps to his feet and races over to help 8, protect Ella and Sarah, who are still down. I feel strong. Good. Sarah and Ella did something miraculous that got us our legacies back, made it possible for us to fight, but now they're both hurt. I will turn every last one of these Mogs into ash for hurting my friends. I rush towards them, whipping balls of fire from my hands at the Mogs. I know it should never feel good to kill a living creature, but right now it feels great. Now that I'm up, Ada is teleporting all over the room, appearing in front of Mogs and slicing them to pieces with a sword. 9 is still fighting Setrákus Ra. But the two of them are moving so fast, they're just a blur. I need to get in there and fight, but I also need to stay here and help Sarah and Ella. Suddenly, one of the Mogs advancing on me turns in a different direction. He's not aiming his cannon at me. It's pointed directly at Sarah and Ella, who are still lying motionless. He fires and their bodies start to convulse, and I begin to scream. I watch in horror as Ella and Sarah's prone bodies are hit with Mog cannon fire. John reaches them and I rush to his side. He's kneeling next to them and holding their hands as their bodies shake. We're too late. After all of this, after we made it this far and we've all found each other at last, it looks like we're about to lose another member of the guard. And Sarah. John just found her again and he's going to lose her. I close my eyes as well, bracing myself for another scar to burn itself into my leg. A scar for Ella. I know this one is going to hurt the most. But nothing happens. Is there something different about Ella that her death won't cause a scar? That can't be. I open my eyes and look at John, who's still hunched over Sarah and Ella, still intently squeezing their hands. I look closer at the girls and can't quite believe what I'm seeing. Their wounds, cannon blasts to their bodies and hideous burns on their faces are healing. What's happening? How are you doing this? I ask John, looking at him in wonder. I have no idea, he says, shaking his head. I didn't know I could do this. I saw Sarah on the ground and I wasn't going to let her die, or Ella. Not another one of the guard. I won't let that happen, especially now that we're together. I took their hands and thought about how much I wanted their injuries to heal, about how much I wished I could heal them, and it suddenly just started to happen. You've developed a new legacy, I cry, squeezing his shoulders. Or I just wanted it so badly a miracle happened. Whatever it is, they're both healing. He lets out a laugh, filled with exhaustion and relief. John looks to the center of the room where... He lets out a laugh, filled with exhaustion and relief. John looks to the center of the room where 9 continues to fight. Marina, this is not the time we're going to bring Setrákus Ra down. Even though our legacies have come back, I don't think we can defeat him just yet, and I don't want to take the chance of losing another guard member. We have to find 6, then we need to figure out a way to get the hell out of here, regroup and come up with a plan. We'll kill him together or die together, but we do it on our terms, and when we know we're ready to do it. We hear a moan and look down at Sarah and Ella. Their eyes are open and color is coming back into their cheeks. John leans over and kisses Sarah. The casing is finally breaking off. I flex my arms and kick my legs and start to fall at to fall as the last of it crumbles. I use my telekinesis to lower myself to the ground. I lie there for a second, trying to catch my breath. The smoke is so thick my eyes are watering. All of a sudden, a huge explosion rocks the room. An alarm goes off, red lights flash, and a piercingly loud siren fills the air. I can see John's lumen burning, and I make my way through the haze towards it. Ella, Marina, and Sarah are standing next to him, and as I get closer, 8 appears, teleporting to Marina's side. Bernie Kosar has turned back into a beagle, and he limps over to John. Ella cries out when she sees me and throws her arms around me. I return her hug and then look at John. Seeing his face again is like a dream come true. He touches my arm. You okay? I nod. What about you? I ask, and I know I sound as exhausted and beaten down as I feel. We're all alive so far, but where's 9? He replies, looking around as we all realize simultaneously that the battle sounds have disappeared. We run towards the center of the room, towards the area where 9 had been battling Setrákus Ra, keeping him at bay. 9 is lying on the ground, motionless, and Setrákus Ra is nowhere in sight. Marina falls to her knees next to him and frantically starts running her hands over his body, while I spin in circles, trying desperately to see through the haze to make sure Setrákus Ra isn't hiding, waiting to capture and kill us when our backs are turned. Aside from the shrill sound of the alarms, the room is eerily quiet, and I realize there are no Mogadorians anywhere. He's alive! Marina cries. He's just stunned! 9 sits up, shaking his head groggily. What happened? He asks. I was going to ask you that, 8 says. There was an explosion, and everyone but the 7 of us have disappeared. I don't know. I didn't see where he went. One second I was trying to hold my own, fighting him off. The next thing I knew, I was here on the ground. What do we do now? Sarah asks. We have to get out of here, says John. Setrákus Ra could reappear at any second, and this could be a trap. Even though this is a government base, it clearly isn't safe. Anyone know a way out of here? I ask. They all look at each other grimly. We have to go back the way we came in, says 8. My teleporting legacy won't work with so many of us. Okay, John says. We don't know what we'll face on the way out, and we may have to fight our way through more Mogadorians or human soldiers, but we need to stay together now. We're never splitting up again. 9 steps over and stands next to me. Then he looks me up and down. I don't believe anyone introduced us, proper-like. It's nice to officially meet you, sweetheart. I'm 9. He says, winking at me. I roll my eyes and John snickers. I look around for a second. It's a miracle we're all together, all still alive. Every living Lorik on Earth but one is standing within a few feet of one another. We're alive and we're fighting, and that means we still have a chance. And we will meet Setrákus Ra again, and soon. Next time, he will not get away from us. Okay, that was the end of chapter 30. Whew, I do apologize for all the mistakes. There's a lot of characters all mashed together now, so I keep getting some of the voices wrong, but goodness gracious, so that was intense. I hope you're enjoying it. Let me make sure that was the last chapter, just to be sure, because, you know. Yep, it is. So the next book in this series is The Fall of Five by Pittacus Lore. And we will be reading that. I'll read the first chapter of that tomorrow, as well as I'll get to Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I think that's probably all I'll do tomorrow. I don't know, it's Saturday. I might do a bunch just to kind of make up. But that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I don't know how long this video is because I didn't time it, so it might be ridiculously long. But I finally finished it. Again, sorry for the wait. It's done now. And that's it for Reading by Ree for today. Okay, until next time. Bye, guys.